Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcoder.com. Okay, so basically what I want to talk about today is how to create a boilerplate for an Express with Express React Views project. And you could use this for you could technically modify this for any templating engine, whether it's Handlebars, EJS, whatever you want to use, but I'm going to be using Express React Views. So first I'm going to create the boilerplate, and then we'll show you how easy it is to use. Okay, so I'm going to go in my backend folder. I'm going to go into my Express React folder, or that's the whole project. So I'm going to say here, new folder, Express React Boilerplate. Okay, and then I'm going to go into, open that folder up into terminal. And I'm going to touch the basic files, touch server.js. Okay. The VS Code's already freezing up on me. And I just opened it. So touch server.js. Go in here and okay, so we add that file to the folder. Cool. So that's, I just want to make sure I have that before I do the npm init-y to create the package.json file. That'll create the package.json file. Okay, let that do that. Boo do 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 do. Let's see here. Give it a second. It's taking its time. Let's take a look at the folder. Yes, did it finish? Okay, it took a while, but it started there. So next is we'll install all the dependencies. So npm install express react DOM. I also want to install express react views, and last I want to install Notamon, so that way in case you don't have it installed globally, that's there. So that's going to install. So while that all installs, we can start building out our folder structure. So new folder, I want to make sure this is model views controller, so I'm going to put models, new folder, views, folder controller. So that way that's all set up. Good. Eventually we're going to need a public folder, so new folder called public. And let's see here. Do I have my other boilerplate available? Front end, no. I think I have it in here. Boilerplate, yes. So I'm actually going to copy my boilerplate. Actually, I don't really need to. There's nothing really there, so I can just build it out in here. So in the public folder, I'm just going to create some folders. CSS, new folder, img for images, and a new folder for JavaScript. Cool. So there's my public folder. That's all set up. Okay, and well, that'll install down there. That can take as long as it really wants. Okay, because all that really matters is that my package.json lists the dependencies at the end. Okay. Let's start building out our server.js. Okay, so this way we don't have to type this code up every single time. So const express equals require express. So we bring in express, then we create the app variable, which equals express. Okay. And then we're going to have our middleware. So I'll block off my middleware so we know where that is. Okay, first thing I want to do is set up my static folder. So app.use express.static. And then here I'm going to put in public, so that way it uses our public folder as our static folder. And then I want my Express React views code, so I'm going to just borrow that from another project I have. I'm just going to copy that right over, which are these 3 lines right here. Copy. Yoink. Okay, close that. Put that right over here. Okay, and again, these 3 lines, if you want, you can just pause the video for a second so you can see those 3 lines. That's what you need to set up Express React views. Okay, essentially what this does is just designate the views folder as where the views are. And then this basically says, hey, look, we're going to use an engine. We're going to set the view engine to be an engine called JSX. And here we're creating an engine called JSX that is the result of running this function. Cool. Neat. Here we'll have our routes. Okay, and here we'll have database stuff if you need it. Just block off an area, so that way it's just blocked off. And then we need our listener. Okay, what I want to do is I'm going to define the port variable up here. So const port, so that way it's easy enough to change. Okay. And generally what you want to do is usually you're going to end up using environmental variables for a lot of things. So you just want to kind of be set up for that. So process.env is usually the object in which environmental variables are used. So if you don't know what those are yet, don't worry about it. This will be just fine. And usually you create a variable called port. But you may not be using environmental variables, and which I'm not going to go over in this video. So if that's the case, just use or. And then we can put in 3000. So that way, if you're not using environmental variables, it'll just automatically use 3000 instead. Nice. Okay. Then we can go down to listener. App.listen. We're going to listen to port. And then we'll have our callback. Console.log. Backticks. Listening on port. And we'll use backticks to figure out what port that is. Okay, just like that. Okay, save. So this file, your server.js, is all set up. Great. Okay, so now you wouldn't have to do all this to start up your project. The next thing we might want to add is start sketching out our views folder. So in this case, we want a folder in there called components. And there's some components we're going to want in there just to kind of start things off. So I'm going to create a new folder or new file in there. I want a layout component. So that way that's already built. And in that layout component, I like to break things down to multiple files. Just makes things more organized. So I'm going to have a header.jsx and a footer.jsx. Okay. This just makes life easier. Okay. Cool. And again, these are in the components folder. So first thing I want to do is create my layout.jsx. So first I gotta bring in React. Okay. I'm gonna do all this in functional components because I just think that's easier. So the only thing I really want to do structure from here. Actually, now just bring in React. Const React equals require React. Good, but I also want the header and layout, header and footer components. You'll see why in a moment. Const header equals require dot slash header dot JSX. And then we'll bring in the footer like that too. This way, what happens is that the header and the footer of your website will be in these components. But you're not putting too much in this one file. Okay, cool. So in this case, we start creating const layout equals props. Okay, and again, if you're not sure what I'm doing, you probably haven't seen my other videos on Express React Views, I would recommend watching this first. This is really just to kind of how to set up the boilerplate so you have this ready to go every time you want to use it. So return, and then it's going to basically be, I'm going to use a fragment, so do one of those things. Okay. And then inside of that, we're going to have the head tag. Okay. Then we're going to have a body tag. Okay, and then what I do here is we're going to have our header component. Then here we'll have props.children, so here's will be whatever you wrap this component around. And then below that will be footer slash. Okay. And then here we'll link to your CSS files. Okay. So let's go to your public folder and create a style.css. Public CSS. Oh, already made that. Am I looking in the right folder? Express. I think I'm looking in the wrong folder. There we go. This folder. CSS. New file. Style.css. Cool. And what I am going to do though is borrow everything from my boilerplate CSS down here. That's from my organizing code video, so you can see how I did that there. But I'll put it on the screen long enough to pause it if you wanted to examine it. Let me just find it. I think that's in the DOM folder. Boilerplate. CSS. And I just want to copy all this. Control C. Close that. Go to my style CSS for my boilerplate. And there we go. So if you want to see what I did here, basically what I did is I created a root with all my basic variables. I used the all selector to just kind of zero everything out and set box sizing the border box. I then set up all my header tags to the title font variable. I set the body to my text font variable, so that way I can easily toggle the fonts on the website, and then a section for all my project specific styles. So that's what I got there. Okay, cool. So I'm going to close that. So now what I want to do here is I want to have a link tag with CSS. And that is technically, because it's in my public folder, it's going to be in /CSS because it's in the CSS folder, /style.css. Cool. So that's linked. Good. Okay. Awesome. And then down here, all I have to do is export this component. Module.exports equals layout. Cool. Okay, so that component is done. That's our layout component. We want to set up header and footer. So I'm going to just basically copy all this over. Control C, head over the header. Paste that in there. I don't need these two. Okay, and then all this is going to be is literally a header tag. Okay, and within and then you would put whatever navigation or whatever you want in there. Okay, and this will be called header. and we'll export it as header. Okay, so if you ever want to change like the header of your website, you would just edit this file. Okay, now we'll copy this again. Put this into footer. Okay, then just do the same thing. Footer. Footer. But instead of this header tag here, I'm going to just return a footer tag. There you go. Okay, so that way you can just build out your footers there. And again, that header and footer gets laid out into layout above and below the rest. Cool, so that's all set up. The last piece is just to set up a template component or a template page. So that way you can just copy and paste it and generally your page is set up. Okay, so what I usually will do, back into the views folder, I'm going to make another file, but not in the components folder in views, but in the views folder, new file. And I'm going to call that template.jsx. Okay, so I can just copy this file whenever. Okay, and then I'm going to make another component. Cons require React. And then I'm just going to call this template for now. I will change it every time I make a new one. Okay, and then basically the way this will work out is I'm going to use, I have to bring in the layout component. So let me actually put that up here. Const layout equals require dot slash components slash layout.jsx. Okay, and here I'm going to have my layout component. Okay, and then I'll just put an h1 saying your content goes here. Cool. I save that. Actually, let me just change this to template, so that way, again, it's just a reminder that make sure you have to always change those two. Okay. And there you go. So basically, I would, every time I make a new page, I would just copy this template.jsx, and then all I have to do is just change what I need to change. Everything's already connected, layout, all this stuff, so I don't really have to think about it. And then I can just go in these files and just edit those pieces. So I can, if I need to edit my head tag and insert like jQuery or Bootstrap, I can do that here. If I want to build a navigation, I can do it in header, do it here. And if I want to build like a footer, I would just do it here, and it would appear on all my pages because the template page is already set up to have all that included. Okay, and then we have all the libraries. So all my dependencies are now in my node.json. So now what I can do is I can delete my node modules folder, so that way I don't have to have all these files just sitting here. Move to trash. Cool. And now I have a boilerplate. So now every time I want to like create a new project, I can just copy this folder, duplicate it, give it a new name, do npmi, install all my dependencies, and then just I'm good to go. I don't have to, I save myself a whole bunch of time. So yeah, that's how to create your boilerplate that you can use to create these projects, similar to the ones you've seen me do in the videos about Express React views. But this way, again, it's just easier. You have you have your folder structure set up. You got your public folder stretched up. You have your basics for your CSS in there. You have all your views structure laid out. You have your dependencies in your package.json. Your server.js is pretty much all set up. So you can just focus on actually building out your